25 experts, 4 exhausting days, and a billion-dollar merger hanging by the thinnest thread. Just as the company stood on the brink of withdrawal, a black woman walked in and reshaped their fate in a way no one could have imagined. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from, and subscribe because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. 25 experts, 4 grueling days, a billion-dollar merger hanging by the thinnest thread. And just as Thorne Innovations teetered on the precipice of withdrawal, a woman her hands calloused from chemical solutions, a daughter's laughter echoing in her heart, stepped into the colossal atrium. Her gaze swept over the gleaming display, and with a single profound insight, she redefined the very future of artificial intelligence. She believed herself to be unseen. But Julian Thorne, the industry's most stoic and formidable CEO, was watching, and what transpired next reshaped their destinies irrevocably. Before we delve into this saga, tell us where in this vast world are you experiencing this unfolding narrative, and upon its conclusion, we invite your rating from 0 to 10. Let us begin. 4 days, 22 disheartened specialists, 7 emergency convocations, and an exorbitant sum of $700,000 in consultation fees, all culminating in what precisely a digital quagmire across the primary holographic display. Julian Thorne's voice, sharp and crystalline, cleaved through the tension-laden atmosphere, reminiscent of a diamond slicing through solid ice. No one dared to utter a sound. Rows upon rows of esteemed engineers sat in an unnerving quietude, droplets of perspiration glistening at their shirt collars. The immense panoramic display dominating the heart of the executive sky lounge pulsed with vivid failure charts, crimson lines of code descending like a cataclysmic digital cascade. "You have precisely 7 minutes," his voice resonated devoid of inflection. "I demand a substantive solution, not merely another contrite apology." His bespoke Italian leather shoes clicked once a solitary punctuation mark on the polished marble floor before he pivoted and departed. The sound of the automated door, a barely perceptible hiss, sealed off the room, leaving behind the acrid tang of burnt coffee and collective apprehension. Beyond the shimmering glass partition, a woman knelt, carefully collecting a discarded sterile wipe. She was clad in a practical, utilitarian charcoal jumpsuit standard issue for biosafety compliance technicians, with inexpensive utilitarian earbuds, one casually dangling, the other nestled discreetly in her ear. Yet her attention was not consumed by the refuse. Her focus was singularly affixed upon the grand display, where a complex algorithm shimmered, confronting her like an enigmatic riddle awaiting its profound unraveling. Simone Dubois, 39 years old, a devoted single mother fulfilling the arduous night shift as a biosafety compliance technician for Thorne Innovations. What remained largely unbeknownst to all was her past. She had once pursued advanced theoretical AI at Caltech, graduating with highest honors, until life, in its relentless impartiality, presented her with challenges far more formidable than any academic examination: the sudden tragic loss of her beloved partner and the sacred, all-consuming responsibility of nurturing her brilliant daughter. Inside the hushed confines of the executive sky lounge, the ambient lights still glowed, a testament to the lingering problem. The last disheartened team had finally conceded defeat. Simone, with a quiet dignity, entered, setting her specialized cleaning equipment gently to the side. The panoramic display stretched across the curved wall, resembling a battlefield where equations lay mangled and logic loops twisted in chaotic disarray. She instinctively reached for a microfiber cloth, intending to meticulously cleanse the surface, and then paused. "Wait just a moment," she murmured, her dark eyes narrowing imperceptibly. She tilted her head, a gesture of profound contemplation. Something within the mathematical framework felt profoundly amiss, not in a strictly academic sense, but on a deeply intuitive level. They were quite simply attempting to apply a rigid linear paradigm to an inherently fluid, non-linear behavioral system. A nascent error indeed, a perilous misstep in the custody of inexperienced hands. She deliberately selected a vibrant crimson marker. With meticulous precision, she delicately expunged a crucial segment, then with fluid strokes delineated a graceful sigmoid curve. Her finger traced a circle around 2 inadvertently swapped variables, and with a decisive motion, she underscored a subtly misweighted node. Having completed her silent work, she stepped back, crossed her arms, and offered herself a single validating nod. They have been approaching this particular challenge from an inverted perspective, and you, it seems, believe you possess the correct methodology. The voice that materialized behind her was unnervingly calm, yet imbued with an unmistakable undertone of steel. Simone turned slowly. Framed within the grand doorway stood Julian Thorne, the chief executive officer of Thorne Innovations. He was impeccably tailored in a dark, austere suit, his hair meticulously combed into a sharp, almost architectural style, and his eyes, those piercing orbs, meticulously assessed every facet of his surroundings, every individual within his purview. I was not intending to interfere with anything, Sir Simone quickly clarified, her voice a soft, apologetic murmur. I merely observed a subtle anomaly. So you are engaged in the meticulous task of sanitizing our surfaces, and simultaneously, you are presuming to correct an algorithm valued at over $200 million. Not precisely correcting, sir. Rather, I am reframing it. Consider it akin to exchanging a dull, ineffectual blade for one that is exquisitely sharp. The task remains identical, yet the process becomes considerably less arduous. Julian Thorne advanced his gaze, sweeping with discerning intensity across the modified display. Without uttering another syllable, he smoothly extracted a sleek tablet from the inner pocket of his coat and initiated an expedited simulation, utilizing the precise alterations Simone had so deftly inscribed. 8 seconds elapsed. An 18.9% augmentation in accuracy, he stated, his voice utterly devoid of discernible emotion. A reduction in error exceeding 65%. For the very first time, he turned to face her directly, truly absorbing her presence. Your designation, Simone Dubois. Your occupational title, Night Biosafety Compliance Technician. Your work schedule, 3 shifts per week. Your last formal academic engagement, Caltech, regrettably withdrawn during your junior year. My husband passed away. I needed to raise my daughter. A prolonged, weighty silence descended upon them. Do you, Miss Dubois, comprehend the magnitude of your actions? I had no intention of encroaching upon anyone's domain. Mr. Thorne Simone replied, her gaze steady. I simply perceived what others perhaps overlooked. That rather sounds like a pithy pronouncement from a fortune cookie, does it not? Or perhaps it sounds precisely like this. If the bathtub is stubbornly obstructed, one should not continue to pour more hot water into it. One should endeavor instead to meticulously unclog the drain. Julian Thorne permitted himself a slight, almost imperceptible curving of his lips, a half smile. It was not precisely warmth, but rather something distinctly human, a fleeting glimpse of an inner landscape. Be present in Conference Chamber Beta tomorrow morning, precisely at 8 o'clock. You will be included on the observer roster. I do not believe my presence is necessary within a meeting of such caliber, sir. I am merely... That, Miss Dubois, was not a suggestion. That was a definitive instruction. What about my daughter, sir? She shall be provided with a plenitude of snacks, and if deemed absolutely necessary, tickets to the Grand City Zoo. She requires very little, sir. Merely a singular compelling reason to believe that her mother is worthy of profound admiration. Julian Thorne paused at the threshold, casting a fleeting glance over his shoulder. For the first time, his gaze softened, not substantially, but sufficiently enough for a subtle shift to be discernible. After this evening, Miss Dubois, she just might possess such a reason. And with that, he silently vanished down the gleaming hallway. Simone remained rooted to her spot for a prolonged moment, utterly stunned. She lifted her gaze to the bold crimson annotations upon the pristine white display, then shifted her focus to her specialized cleaning unit, positioned in the corner. I suppose I owe you a significant acknowledgement, old friend, she murmured, a faint, weary smile touching her lips. Simone found scant sleep that night, not due to the gnawing tendrils of apprehension or the exhilarating thrum of nascent excitement, but because Maya steadfastly refused to succumb to slumber until her mother recounted the entire unfolding narrative, every meticulous detail. So he simply walked in. Maya inquired, her small voice hushed with wonder. "And you were not afraid?" Mama Sweetheart Simone whispered tenderly, brushing a stray wisp of Maya's soft curls behind her ear. "When you have held the hand of your beloved partner in a sterile hospital room, watching life ebb away, and subsequently had to explain to your precious daughter that she can no longer physically request his presence, well, then darling, powerful CEOs, no matter their perceived magnitude, simply do not possess the capacity to instill fear within you." Maya blinked, her large, inquisitive eyes fixed upon her mother, and then a profound smile blossomed on her face. Not a smile of childish naivete, but the kind that eloquently conveyed, "I perceive the depth of your being, Mama." Then she leaned in her voice, a conspiratorial whisper, "I genuinely believe he finds you rather endearing." Simone chuckled softly, a sound of gentle amusement, then tucked her daughter snugly into her bed and stared at the ceiling for what felt like an eternity. By precisely 7 minutes before 8 o'clock the following morning, she stood poised before the entrance to Conference Chamber Beta at Thorne Innovations, clad in the most immaculate, well-pressed button-down blouse she possessed, which, despite her diligent efforts, still bore the faint ghost-like trace of a coffee stain near its hem. Her worn yet cherished satchel was slung casually over one shoulder, containing within its depths a new notepad, a sleek mechanical pencil, and a carefully folded drawing. Maya had meticulously crafted a stick figure, one hand clutching a small, detailed cleaning implement, the other poised to unleash a vibrant lightning bolt. Inside the bustling confines of the room, impeccably tailored suits circulated with a palpable hum of nervous energy around a central holographic display, akin to moths irrevocably drawn to a luminous flame. Intricate diagrams illuminated the expansive walls. Charts, granular data points, and complex projected timelines shimmered with quiet intensity. The air itself was redolent with the stark scent of corporate stress commingled with the crisp aroma of peppermint breath mints. And then he entered. Julian Thorne. This time, Simone perceived his arrival before he uttered a single word. The entire room underwent an immediate, almost imperceptible transformation. Individuals instinctively straightened their postures, voices instinctively lowered to hushed murmurs. The ambient temperature seemed to descend by a noticeable 2 degrees. He cast a singular brief yet intensely deliberate glance in her direction, then with an economy of motion indicated an unoccupied chair situated near the periphery of the grand table. "That, Miss Dubois, is your designated seat." She did not solicit permission. She simply, with a quiet grace, took her place. "Let us commence," he intoned, his voice snapping the entire room into immediate sharp focus. "Yesterday, we bore witness to a significant miscalculation, one that very nearly jeopardized a multi-phase contractual agreement and more critically exposed fundamental weaknesses within our predictive loop. However, last evening," he tapped his sleek tablet with a deliberate rhythm. Simone's rudimentary sketch, her raw, vibrant crimson marker corrections, materialized prominently upon the main display. "Someone bestowed upon us a profound gift." A hushed murmur rippled through the assembled room. Eyes flickered discreetly towards Simone, then quickly, almost apologetically, away. "This singular adjustment," Julian continued, his voice unwavering, "has successfully diminished our training error by 63%. It has reduced latency by 24 milliseconds and has made it painfully, unequivocally clear." He paused, allowing his words to hang in the air with profound weight, "that true expertise can manifest in forms strikingly dissimilar to our conventional expectations." A palpable silence enveloped the room. Then a single hand ascended slowly. Marcus Thorne, senior systems architect, holding an MBA from a prestigious Ivy League institution. His eyes conveyed a message that loudly declared, "I am making a valiant effort to maintain professional decorum, yet I am absolutely consumed by an overwhelming desire to utterly dismantle your argument. With all due respect," he commenced a phrase universally uttered just prior to a profound act of disrespect. "How do we definitively ascertain that this is not merely an isolated anomaly, a fortunate happenstance? Run the model," Julian Thorne replied, his voice flat, unyielding. Marcus hesitated for a protracted moment, then with a barely perceptible sigh, meticulously entered the newly provided parameters. The simulation executed with an unprecedented smoothness. No discernible overfitting. Predictive behavior meticulously aligned across a multiplicity of disparate datasets. The verdant success bar glowed with a triumphant radiance. "It could still be a stroke of pure serendipity," Marcus muttered, his voice laced with lingering doubt. "Perhaps." Simone spoke for the very first time, her voice a calm, unwavering timbre. "But if indeed it is, then I sincerely hope that we as an organization possess the profound intellectual capacity to discern and learn from fortune when it presents itself, even if it arrives bearing a specialized cleaning apparatus." A few quiet, appreciative chuckles rippled through the room. Julian Thorne did not overtly smile, but he did incline his head very slightly, a gesture akin to that of a discerning arbiter acknowledging an unexpected yet undeniably valid argument. Following the conclusion of the meeting, he intercepted her near the sleek, glass-encased elevators. "You held your position with remarkable composure," he observed. "I was not endeavoring to. Perhaps that is precisely why it yielded such results." They descended together, initially enveloped in a comfortable silence. Then he inquired, "Do you habitually structure your thoughts in such an unconventional manner?" "In analogies, sir. I am fundamentally a problem solver," Simone replied, her voice steady. "I have been compelled to be. And I communicate with my daughter as if she were a vibrant, curious 6-year-old, not a weary 60-year-old. Consequently, I elucidate complex technological concepts as if they were mundane acts of plumbing, or the nuanced art of baking, or the intricate mechanics of automotive repair. The understanding I find adheres more effectively in that fashion. Intriguing, decidedly useful. You might possess a profound point." She hesitated for a beat, then cast a sideways glance at him. "Do you, sir, habitually engage in discourse in such a fashion? In what fashion, Miss Dubois? As if you are presiding over a formidable courtroom rather than merely partaking in a convivial conversation." For a beat, he remained utterly silent. "I manage what is within my sphere of control," he finally articulated. "Even conversations, and indeed, especially conversations, Miss Dubois." They stepped into the grand echoing lobby. "I do not engage in casual exchanges, Mr. Brooks," he stated flatly. "Then Mr. Thorne," she responded, permitting herself the faintest, almost imperceptible grin. "I am likely your most formidable quandary." Perhaps he murmured, his gaze distant. "But you did undeniably resolve a colossal quandary last evening." That afternoon, Simone returned to her prescribed shift, once again, clad in her standard uniform, once again, accompanied by her specialized cleaning cart and solutions. Yet, and subtle transformation had occurred. Individuals now offered her deferential nods as they passed her in the gleaming hallways, not solely the eager interns, but even the senior engineers. One even offered a quiet, astounding work, Miss Dubois, in a tone utterly devoid of sarcasm. And Maya had meticulously crafted a new drawing. This particular rendition depicted her mother standing resolutely beside a towering man in a dark, impeccably tailored suit. The accompanying caption, rendered in childlike scrawl, confidently proclaimed "Mama plus Lightning Boss =, the bestest team ever." Meanwhile, within the austere confines of his executive office, Julian Thorne stood in solitary contemplation at the massive panoramic window overlooking the sprawling metropolis. A formidable storm was steadily gathering on the horizon. He felt no disquietude. He tapped his tablet, summoning Simone's simulation onto the screen once more, observing the undulating line smooth out again and again into an elegant, predictable order. No formal degree, no hierarchical position, no pre-approved permissions. He whispered to himself, a profound sense of awe in his voice. A soft rap resonated at his office door. It was Eleanor Vance, his long-serving chief technology officer, a woman in her early 50s, fiercely loyal, refreshingly blunt, and quite possibly the sole individual within the entire corporation who dared to address him without the slightest pretense of filtering her thoughts. That biosafety compliance technician has certainly ignited a fervent discourse amongst the staff. Sir Eleanor stated, her expression unreadable. "Let them engage in their discussions. Do you genuinely believe she possesses more untapped potential within her, sir? I am unequivocally certain of it, Eleanor." Eleanor crossed her arms, a familiar gesture. "You are contemplating granting her access to higher echelons, are you not, sir? I am contemplating listening with significantly greater diligence to voices that do not exclusively emanate from executive boardrooms, Eleanor." Eleanor raised a single skeptical eyebrow. "You have undergone a noticeable transformation, sir. She has demonstrably improved the inherent functionality of the system," Eleanor Julian Thorne stated simply, his voice firm. "No, sir." Eleanor countered, her gaze unwavering. "She has demonstrably improved you." He offered no immediate rejoinder. Instead, he observed the nascent raindrops beginning to trace soft, ephemeral lines across the vast expanse of glass, and for the first time in what felt like a prolonged epoch, he felt no immediate compulsion to resolve anything. Not instantly. The unexpected invitation arrived via an inconspicuous internal email, yet not directly to Simone's designated inbox. It was routed instead to human resources, who in turn diligently printed it, traversed the expansive corporate campus, and presented it to her while she was meticulously scrubbing a persistent coffee spill from the gleaming floor on the third executive level. Your presence has been specifically requested. The young woman from Human Resources articulated, her eyes blinking rapidly as if she herself could scarcely believe the words she was uttering at the executive strategy meeting tomorrow, precisely at 10 o'clock sharp. Simone slowly lifted her gaze from her utilitarian bucket. Are you quite certain that is not intended for someone else, dear? The name clearly states Simone Dubois. The title unequivocally states Biosafety Compliance Technician. Sounds about right, ma'am. It also indicates guest contributor technical observation role. Whatever that precisely implies. It implies my dear Simone stated slowly, rising to her full height and meticulously wiping her hands on a clean rag, that they have exhausted all viable ideas and they are rapidly approaching a state of desperation. The young woman offered a faint smirk, but there was an additional undefinable quality discernible within her eyes, too. Curiosity, perhaps, or even a nascent spark of hope. Simone did not return home that night. Instead, she embarked upon a short journey to the 24-hour laundromat situated a mere 2 blocks from the imposing edifice of Thorn Innovations. There, she diligently washed her sole 2 presentable blouses. She did not bother to sit, preferring instead to lean against the warm hum of the industrial dryer, absently flipping through the pages of an old tattered notebook filled with illegible scribbles, impromptu napkin calculations, and a few endearing sketches of Maya making wonderfully silly expressions. Do you truly believe this is a judicious course of action? She whispered into the empty air, addressing no one in particular. Venturing into that exclusive domain with them, she could distinctly perceive the gentle, guiding voice of her late husband resonating within her consciousness. Simone, my love, you have an unfortunate propensity to overthink everything. Simply endeavor to be the woman who listens intently. That, my dear, is the woman in whom others instinctively place their trust. By the nascent hours of the morning, she remained undeniably weary, yet she felt a subtle accretion of readiness. The strategy room was majestically situated on the uppermost floor, boasting expansive glass walls and oversized commanding windows, the kind of opulent space meticulously designed to make ordinary individuals feel profoundly, almost infinitesimally small. Simone, by stark contrast, stood out like a persistent coffee stain upon a pristine white linen tablecloth. No lanyards adorned her neck. No tailored blazer graced her shoulders. Simply her singular clean blouse, Maya's cherished lucky stone nestled securely within her pocket, and a notepad she had not dared to open since her daughter had lost her very first tooth. Is this the biosafety compliance technician? The query emanated from a man possessing 2 impeccably aligned teeth and a tie fastened with an almost uncomfortable tautness. You may address me as Simone, she replied, her voice calm and steady, or guest contributor, if that proves to be a more palatable nomenclature. Julian Thorne entered the room at precisely that moment, catching the tail end of the exchange. She is present, gentlemen, because none of you, despite your collective formidable intellect, successfully resolved the critical neural lag issue, he stated, directing his gaze at no one in particular, yet addressing everyone. She did. She has undeniably earned her place at this table. Let us commence. That singular declaration effectively silenced the entire room. The meeting extended for a full 90 minutes. Simone uttered very little, yet when she did speak, heads instinctively swiveled in her direction. She refrained from employing convoluted jargon, refrained from deploying ostentatious acronyms or trendy buzzwords. Instead, she meticulously drew eloquent parallels. Envision your complex AI model, she suggested, once her voice calm and resonant as a single parent grappling with the immense challenge of juggling 3 demanding occupations simultaneously. You are persistently compelling it to optimize its results, yet you are failing to allocate it the requisite time to truly comprehend the fundamental rationale behind its requested transformations. A few quiet chuckles rippled through the room. Another individual murmured, "Damn, that is surprisingly profoundly accurate." Marcus, the senior architect, made a valiant yet ultimately futile attempt to conceal his patent irritation. I am merely contemplating whether we are now basing our entire strategic roadmap upon bedtime analogies, he articulated dryly, his voice dripping with condescension. Have you, Mr. Thorne, ever undertaken the profound responsibility of raising a child? No, Miss Dubois, I have not. Then perhaps you ought not to disparage the efficacy of bedtime, Mr. Thorne. It is quite often precisely where the most profound and authentic learning truly transpires. That particular rejoinder elicited more genuine laughter than Marcus had anticipated, and a greater number of affirmative nods than Simone had ever dared to hope for. Following the conclusion of the meeting, Simone stepped into the bustling hallway, exhaling slowly, a subtle sense of relief washing over her. Julian Thorne followed her out holding 2 steaming takeaway coffees. "I did not peg you for a natural orator, Miss Dubois," he observed, extending one of the cups to her. "I am not Mr. Thorne. However, I have been systematically underestimated for a sufficiently protracted period to have become quite adept at, shall we say, playing along with the perceived expectations." That particular comment concerning bedtime, was that a pre-rehearsed line? It was not a line, Mr. Thorne. That, in its purest essence, is my life. They walked side by side, the silence that now permeated the space between them, less acutely sharp, more akin to a deliberately held, open expanse. "Why did you not return to pursuing your engineering aspirations?" he inquired. "Because Caltech Mr. Thorne does not regrettably extend academic scholarships to widowed single mothers who diligently work arduous night shifts and meticulously prepare lunchboxes before the first blush of dawn. But you could have submitted a new application, Miss Dubois, gone back, meticulously rebuilt your entire professional trajectory. I did not harbor a desire to rebuild my own life, Mr. Thorne. My paramount desire was to build hers first." He halted his stride abruptly. "You articulate your perspectives as one who fails to grasp the profound rarity of such a devotion, or Mr. Thorne as one who is simply too profoundly exhausted to genuinely care how rare such a devotion might be perceived." He looked at her, then truly looked at her, absorbing her essence, and for the very first time, his voice softened almost imperceptibly. "Perhaps, Miss Dubois, it is now time for you to cease being the individual who perpetually facilitates the ease of everyone else's existence, and allow someone for a change to build something for you too." Simone offered no direct response, but her silence was not cold, merely unfamiliar terrain. Later that same day, she returned home to find Maya patiently waiting by the door, a worn shoebox clutched firmly in her small hand. "How was it?" Mama Maya inquired, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. Grown-ups in exceedingly fancy rooms uttering words that held very little true meaning until someone quite unexpectedly mentioned bedtime stories. "So you did tell the mama analogy." "Indeed I did, sweetheart." And no one booed. Maya grinned, her face alight with triumph, then reverently opened the shoebox. Inside rested a meticulously prepared sandwich, 2 vibrant stickers, and a carefully folded piece of paper. "I created a brand new business card for you, Mama," she declared proudly. It read, "Simone Dubois, fixer of things, solver of grown-up problems, full-time mom. You conspicuously omitted bio-safety compliance operator, sweetheart. I upgraded you, Mama." Meanwhile, at Thorne Innovations, Marcus Thorne stood rigidly in Julian Thorne's office, his arms conspicuously crossed. "You are elevating her far too precipitously, sir," he asserted, his voice taut with disapproval. "No, Marcus, I am merely recognizing inherent value when it presents itself. She does not possess an understanding of corporate structure. She lacks the appropriate credentials, sir. Neither did Steve Jobs when he initially commenced his endeavors, Marcus. Credentials did not meticulously write that groundbreaking code. Profound insight did." Marcus clenched his jaw, a muscle visibly twitching. "What is the true underlying motivation here?" "Julian, are you genuinely promoting talent, or are you in pursuit of something entirely disparate?" Julian Thorne's eyes did not so much as flinch. "Allow me to pose a query to you, Marcus. When was the last occasion upon which you genuinely surprised yourself?" She, Marcus, surprises herself every single day, and she does not even deign to label it as ambition. She labels it as survival. Marcus departed without uttering another word. Julian Thorne slowly sat down, opened his sleek laptop, and once again stared intently at the simulation results. Not because he required additional confirmation, but because they served as a poignant reminder of something he had almost tragically forgotten. Clarity. Something Simone Dubois brought into even the most obtuse of rooms entirely without deliberate intention. It commenced with an unexpected voicemail. Simone listened to it 3 times over before definitively concluding that it was unequivocally not an elaborate prank. "Miss Dubois, this is Celeste from the executive office. Mr. Thorne has specifically requested that I extend a personal invitation to you. This evening, 7 o'clock precisely. A private dinner, Miss Dubois. Decidedly not business. No tie required. Not business." She stared at her phone as if the inanimate object itself might miraculously offer further elucidation. But phones, in their inherent limitations, do not perform such feats. Not when the individual in question is the enigmatic Julian Thorne. She stood outside the Obsidian Bistro, a charming, intimate establishment, discreetly nestled between an artisanal flower shop and a quaint boutique hotel on the more tranquil side of the city. It was precisely the sort of restaurant where the chairs, by deliberate design, charmingly mismatched, and where the servers affectionately recognized the owner's beloved canine by its distinctive appellation. Julian Thorne was already present, seated at a secluded window table, his meticulously styled hair, for the very first time, casually uncombed. Soft, natural waves framed his face, devoid of the customary armor. Simply him. Simone entered suddenly acutely conscious of her scuffed yet comfortable boots and her jacket that had undeniably weathered one too many winters. "You clean up rather well, Miss Dubois," he remarked, lifting his gaze, a faint, almost imperceptible half-smile gracing his lips. "I possess precisely one shirt that is not entirely dreadful, Mr. Thorne. You are currently observing it. Then we are both considerably overdressed for what is definitively not a date, Miss Dubois." They took their respective seats, and for a protracted period, neither uttered a single word. The delicate clinking of glassware, the soft ambient strains of jazz emanating from the corner speaker, and the comforting aroma of freshly baked rosemary bread filled the space where superficial small talk typically resided. Julian Thorne finally broke the profound silence. "Do you comprehend, Miss Dubois, precisely why I requested your presence here this evening? Because you derive perverse pleasure from observing underqualified individuals experience profound panic whilst contemplating extensive wine lists, Mr. Thorne. Because I have not engaged in a genuine, unburdened conversation in 3 years, Miss Dubois. Not one that did not invariably involve quarterly financial reports or impending legal disputes." Simone raised an inquiring eyebrow. "Are you seriously implying, Mr. Thorne, that no one ever inquires about the tenor of your day? They do inquire, Miss Dubois. But their true underlying query is inevitably how my performance may tangibly affect their own." He averted his gaze, his eyes distant, unfocused. "I consume my midday meal at my desk, Miss Dubois. I affix my signature to a greater number of non-disclosure agreements than I do birthday cards. And some days, Miss Dubois, I find myself utterly forgetting the distinct timbre of my own voice, unless it is actively issuing directives." Simone leaned forward, her voice low and direct. "It sounds to me, Mr. Thorne, as though you require the immediate termination of your overly demanding calendar and the urgent acquisition of a highly competent therapist. I attempted that, Miss Dubois. He rather unceremoniously resigned after precisely 2 sessions. And why, pray tell, Mr. Thorne?" He asserted Miss Dubois that I induced in him a profound sense of anxiety. Simone laughed, a full, resonant, utterly unfiltered laugh that caused 2 other diners to cast a momentary curious glance in their direction. Julian Thorne looked at her genuinely surprised, then astonishingly joined in. Quietly at first, then more freely, the sound gaining momentum. "There it is, Mr. Thorne," she observed, nodding sagely. "There what is Miss Dubois, the human component of the glacial expanse, Mr. Thorne." He tilted his head, visibly amused. "Do you habitually engage in such candid discourse, Miss Dubois, only when I am too utterly fatigued to maintain the pretense that I somehow belong here, Mr. Thorne?" The culinary selections arrived, something she could neither pronounce nor readily identify, and something he did not bother to elucidate. It was ultimately inconsequential. For the first time in years, Julian Thorne ate with an unhurried, almost deliberate pace. Simone listened intently, refraining from any interruption, and the conversation drifted effortlessly to tales of their respective childhoods, to the poignant moment of realizing that one's parents are fundamentally merely fallible human beings, to cherished literary works and frustratingly unsatisfying cinematic conclusions, and finally inevitably to the profound experience of loss. "I still at times perceive his voice," Mr. Thorne Simone quietly confided. "When my mind is not consciously engaged, perhaps when Maya drifts into slumber in the car, or when I discern the unmistakable aroma of cinnamon on crisp, cold mornings. Your husband, Miss Dubois? Yes, Mr. Thorne. How long has it been, Miss Dubois? 6 years, Mr. Thorne. You speak as if he remains intimately close, Miss Dubois. He is Mr. Thorne, just not in the manner I ardently desire." Julian Thorne did not offer an immediate retort. "My father, Miss." Dubois was singularly defined by his relentless ambition. He finally articulated his voice, a low murmur. He meticulously instructed me that I possessed the capacity to command the entire world, provided I never permitted anyone to approach too closely. He emphatically stated that emotion in the context of the corporate suit constituted an unforgivable weakness, and I regrettably afforded credence to his counsel for a period far exceeding what was judicious. They paused, a shared understanding passing between them. Then Simone extracted something from her pocket, Maya's most recent drawing, now softly folded and gently worn at its edges. She drew this, Simone explained, her voice imbued with a quiet pride, on the very day I addressed that grand boardroom. She said Mama looked like a true hero, like one of those extraordinary individuals who possess the innate ability to mend not only fractured machines, but also shattered hearts, all with the identical set of tools. Julian Thorne carefully unfolded the paper, a meticulously rendered stick figure with wild, energetic hair holding hands with a taller figure in heels, both depicted with beaming smiles. A small, almost imperceptible cleaning implement nestled in the background adjacent to a laptop. He gazed at it for a duration far exceeding her expectations. "You know Miss Dubois," he murmured, his voice surprisingly soft. "I have successfully orchestrated multi-million-dollar deals, launched revolutionary products across 5 distinct countries, and stood upon prestigious stages before chief executive officers who visibly trembled with apprehension before I even deigned to speak. And yet, nothing, absolutely nothing, has ever made me feel more profoundly seen than this simple crayon sketch from a little girl I have until now never met." They departed the restaurant sometime after 10 o'clock. The night air was cool, invigoratingly crisp, the kind of air that inexplicably purifies the lungs. Julian Thorne walked a step behind her, then paused beside her modest, sturdy truck. "You still operate this rather antique conveyance, Miss Dubois. It functions dependably, Mr. Thorne, and it is entirely paid off. You would be utterly astounded by the profound rarity of that in this city." He leaned casually against the passenger door. "You are a rather peculiar individual, Simone Dubois. Coming from you, Mr. Thorne, I shall graciously accept that as a profound compliment." She opened the driver's side door, but paused momentarily before entering. "Why did you truly invite me here tonight, Mr. Thorne?" "Because, Miss Dubois, I urgently needed to recall the unadulterated sound of truth. And you, Miss Dubois, you do not perform. You simply exist authentically." She nodded a quiet acknowledgement. That for him was quite sufficient. "I shall see you at work, Mr. Thorne," she stated, climbing into the truck. "Simone." He turned back his gaze, questioning. "Yes, Mr. Thorne, I find a certain charm in bedtime stories, Miss Dubois." And with that he turned and silently vanished into the depths of the night, his footsteps the precise clicks of his polished shoes punctuating a sentence neither of them desired to conclude. The following morning commenced in a fashion seemingly indistinguishable from any other. Simone dropped Maya off at her school. Maya embraced her mother with an embrace that was tighter than usual and whispered conspiratorially, "You are radiating Mama. People are truly beginning to perceive it." Simone smiled a genuine, expansive smile throughout her entire commute to work, until she stepped into the towering edifice of Thorne Innovations and immediately felt it, the palpable alteration, the discernible shift in the atmospheric temperature, not in degrees, but in the collective demeanor. Fewer smiles, colder, more guarded glances, and a pervasive silence that felt less like peace and more like suppressed tension tightly coiled beneath the veneer of polite nods. She valiantly attempted to prevent it from unsettling her, but as her hand reached for her ID badge, a security officer, one with whom she had exchanged light-hearted jokes just the previous week, gently yet firmly intercepted her. "Pardon me, ma'am. You have been officially reallocated off the biosafety janitorial roster. Your current clearance level, ma'am, is executive access by direct order of the CTO. I surmise, ma'am, that you have been promoted." The words strangely resonated more like a quiet warning than a genuine welcome. Within the sleek confines of the elevator, Marcus Thorne was already waiting. His tie impeccably straight, his jaw noticeably tighter than usual. "A new designation, I hear," he stated, not bothering to offer even the slightest semblance of a smile. "I was not aware one existed, Mr. Thorne." "Oh, it most assuredly does, Miss Dubois. Special Technical Advisor to the Chief Executive Officer. It must be rather pleasant to circumvent the conventional corporate ladder, must it not? I have circumvented absolutely nothing." Mr. Thorne Simone countered calmly, her gaze unwavering. I have, in point of fact, been ascending for years merely upon a staircase that no one bothered to acknowledge. Marcus stepped closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Allow me to offer you a piece of unsolicited advice, cleaner lady. These individuals smile to your face solely because Julian dictates it, but they are not genuinely your compatriots. You do not in any verifiable sense belong here. Simone looked him squarely in the eye, her resolve unyielding. If I had waited Mr. Thorne to belong, my daughter would even now be experiencing the gnawing pangs of hunger. I did not embark upon this journey to be liked Mr. Thorne. I embarked upon it to construct something that unequivocally functions. Later that very morning, within the refined confines of the strategy room, the assembled team meticulously reviewed Simone's meticulously articulated optimization for the autonomous response model. Her calculations were impeccable. Her proposed solution was undeniably elegant. Yet the room remained frozen in a palpable stasis. Marcus spoke first. We have diligently recalculated the figures, Julian. Miss Dubois' logic is undeniably sound. However, we are not advocating for its immediate implementation. Julian Thorne looked up sharply, his gaze piercing. Excuse me, Marcus. It remains untested at a comprehensive scale. There is no established precedent. We would be incurring a substantial public relations liability by utilizing code derived from an individual who, with all due respect, does not even possess a conventional college degree. Are you asserting, Marcus, that the underlying mathematical framework is entirely acceptable, but the accompanying curriculum vitae is not? Marcus did not so much as blink. We are a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, Julian. Our discerning clientele do not crave sensationalized biosafety genius headlines. They demand pedigree, Miss Dubois. They demand stability. They demand legacy. The room slowly, hesitantly offered a collective nod of agreement. Simone remained quietly seated, refraining from defending herself, simply observing, much like an individual who has weathered far more formidable tempests and intuitively discerns the prevailing winds. Julianne Thorne's eyes locked onto her. Simone, do you wish to offer a response? She leaned forward, her voice remarkably steady. I comprehend, gentlemen. I am not what you anticipated, and perhaps that inherent divergence fosters a certain level of discomfort. But if the empirical data functions and the systemic efficacy demonstrably improves, then I pose the query, who precisely is exhibiting the unprofessional conduct? The individual actively resolving the problem or the assembled team deliberately ignoring the solution? And if I had entered this room adorned with a Caltech degree and a $1,000 blazer, you would, without hesitation, be lauding this as profound innovation. But because I quite distinctly carry the faint aroma of cleaning solutions and affix my daughter's whimsical sticker to my laptop, you are labeling it a profound liability. A palpable silence ensued. Then, gentlemen, if an individual's inherent value is to be quantifiably measured by the exorbitant cost of their inevitable errors, perhaps it is high time we began to measure value through a fundamentally different prism. The room remained utterly silent. Julian Thorne slowly rose to his feet. We shall proceed with the implementation of the update. Marcus offered no audible objection, but his lingering glare eloquently communicated everything. That afternoon, Simone discovered Julian Thorne on the rooftop balcony. He was gazing intently at the expansive city skyline, his arms crossed, his jacket discarded, his shirt sleeves meticulously rolled. A rather challenging gathering, Mr. Thorne, she observed softly. They are accustomed to predictable outcomes and meticulously polished origins, Miss Dubois. You quite simply are neither. No, Miss Dubois, he conceded. I am accustomed to excellence irrespective of its hidden domicile. They stood in quietude for a brief moment. Then Simone inquired, Why are you contending so fiercely on my behalf, Mr. Thorne? He turned to face her. Because, Miss Dubois, you serve as a poignant reminder of something I once held in profound belief before I traded it for executive board seats and elaborate branding guides. And what, pray tell, might that be, Mr. Thorne? The profound idea that brilliance requires no explicit permission, Miss Dubois. She smiled. That is a rather beautiful idea, Mr. Thorne. A perilous one, Miss Dubois, in the custody of inexperienced hands. So, too, is silence, Mr. Thorne. But silence was precisely what followed. In the ensuing days, Simone perceived a diminishing number of affirmative nods. Conversations abruptly ceased upon her entrance into various rooms. Slack channels to which she had once been routinely copied went inexplicably quiet. Even the engineers who had once sought her advice now meticulously avoided direct eye contact. Only Eleanor Vance, the CTO, remained steadfastly consistent, gruff, unequivocally honest, and profoundly grounded. One evening, as Simone diligently reviewed lines of code in the break room, Eleanor quietly settled beside her, offering 2 cups of dark, robust coffee. "You have quite inadvertently rattled their established equilibrium, Simone." "I had no intention of doing so, Eleanor. You did not need to, Simone. You merely exist authentically. That in itself is perceived as a profound threat. It feels, Eleanor, as though I am being subtly propelled out of a space I never explicitly sought to occupy." "That is, Simone, precisely because you are not engaging in their conventional game. You are instead engaging in the profound game of life. And life, Simone, instills a terrifying apprehension in those who have never been compelled to navigate its unforgiving crucible of survival." Simone looked up, her gaze weary. "Am I, Eleanor, merely squandering my precious time here? Not, Simone, if you truly recall the intrinsic worth of time itself. And not, Simone, if you are undertaking this arduous journey for motives extending far beyond a mere compensation package." She looked down at Maya's drawing once more, now subtly creased from its constant presence in her pocket, yet never torn. "I am doing it, Eleanor, for her." Eleanor clapped her gently on the back once. "Then, Simone, you are already unequivocally victorious." That night at home, Maya sat contentedly on the couch, engrossed in the construction of a complex puzzle, while Simone quietly reheated leftover lentil stew. "Did they approve of your novel idea?" Mama Maya inquired, her small voice earnest. "Some did, sweetheart. Some not quite as enthusiastically. But you spoke the unvarnished truth, didn't you, Mama? I did, my love. Then you unequivocally fulfilled your obligation, Mama." Simone sat beside her, observing her daughter's small, dexterous fingers meticulously guide a sky-blue piece into its perfect designated position. "What if, Maya, people simply do not find me agreeable for steadfastly adhering to what is right? Then, Mama, you seek out individuals who do." Simple, profoundly wise, the wisdom of a 6-year-old. Simone tenderly kissed her forehead. "Do you ever contemplate the possibility, Maya, of someday presiding over this company? Only, Mama, if it comes with a lifetime supply of complimentary popsicles. I shall endeavor to incorporate that stipulation into the forthcoming contract, my love." They both laughed, a sound of unburdened joy. And in that singular moment, soft, beautifully ordinary, profoundly imperfect Simone unequivocally recalled the precise impetus for embarking upon this arduous journey. Not to attain acceptance, not to prove her inherent worth, but rather to painstakingly construct a world where her precious daughter would never be compelled to. Julian Thorne did not perceive it initially. He strode past the biosafety compliance closet without so much as a second glance. The specialized cleaning unit was not in its customary position, but he barely registered the minor deviation. Meetings seamlessly bled into subsequent meetings. Deadlines barked with relentless urgency. Investors like predatory sharks ceaselessly circled, but by the advent of the third day, a subtle disquieting alteration permeated the very air, a profound silence. The kind of silence that irrevocably settles after a door slams shut with definitive finality and no one decisively returns. Simone Dubois was gone. The formerly occupied seat in the rear corner of the primary lab remained conspicuously empty. Her name was quietly expunged from the internal corporate communication channels. No official memorandum, no discernible explanation. Someone else was assigned to the nightly code cleanup, but no one possessed the innate ability to correct logic with her unparalleled precision. No one perceived intricate patterns with her singular clarity. The sophisticated AI models had subtle, as it was recommenced their gentle, almost imperceptible drift. Just a fraction, just enough to be noticeable to a discerning eye. And yet, no one dared to utter her name. No one save for him. Julian Thorne stood in solitary contemplation upon the observation deck, overlooking the bustling testing laboratory below. The floor beneath glowed with the luminous illumination of monitors and the soft, murmurous chatter of technicians. He should have felt a profound sense of satisfaction. The latest software update had successfully navigated all internal testing protocols. The company stock had surged by a healthy 5.1%. On paper, it was an indisputable triumph. but deep within him a pervasive void resonated. He found his gaze repeatedly drawn to the precise corner where Simone used to stand, hands casually in her pockets, head slightly tilted, eyes narrowed as if she could discern the very soul of a line of code, now merely an empty, echoing space. A new cleaner swept silently past, offering no unsolicited input. Of course he did not. He was merely present to clean, just as Simone had been until she was not. That night, back within the confines of his executive office, he stared intently at his desk. It was pristine, impeccably organized, as it invariably was, save for a faint, almost imperceptible brown stain near its very edge, barely discernible unless the light struck it at precisely the correct angle. It had been a coffee spill from Simone's inaugural meeting. She had set down her thermos and offered an immediate, heartfelt apology. "Forgive me, Mr. Thorne, this peculiar contraption leaks hope and caffeine in equally generous measures." He had not laughed then, but now, paradoxically, he found himself wishing the subtle stain would forever remain unsullied. He remained late. Everyone else had long since departed for their homes, but he wandered the hushed corridors like an individual adrift in a life that was not his own. In the hallway near the sub-level laboratory, he passed the break room lights, dim chairs neatly stacked. Upon a small, unassuming corkboard affixed near the door, pinned amongst antiquated flyers and forgotten shift reminders, was a tiny, brightly colored envelope. His name was inscribed upon it in uneven, vibrant purple crayon, "To Mr. Thorne from Maya Dubois." He stared at it for several protracted seconds, uncertain whether to surrender to a smile or to the profound wellspring of sorrow. He took the envelope gently, as if it might with a sudden touch evanesce. Inside was a carefully folded piece of paper adorned with meticulously drawn stars in every corner. In the very center, rendered in a child's careful yet undeniably earnest handwriting, were only a few simple lines. "Thank you for believing in my mama. She used to smile when she talked about you. Now she doesn't smile much, but I still do. Maya, age 6 3/4. Julian Thorne slowly sank onto the bench beside the vending machine. For the first time in what felt like a painful succession of months, he removed his meticulously polished shoes, folded his long legs beneath him like a child, and wept. He did not divulge his destination to anyone the following morning. No personal driver, no imposing bodyguard, simply a dark, unadorned coat, a scarf wrapped tightly around his neck, and Maya's letter folded precisely, nestled securely within his pocket, like an unerring compass. He located Simone's apartment after approximately 20 minutes, circling a neighborhood that had evidently not received a fresh coat of paint in a great many years. The wooden steps creaked audibly beneath his weight. The antiquated elevator remained resolutely unfunctional. The hallway bore the lingering scent of old curry and recent rainwater. When he finally rapped upon the door, it was Maya who surprisingly opened it. "You're the man from Mama's work," she stated matter-of-factly, her large, intelligent eyes assessing him with candid curiosity. "The one who makes Mama nervous." Julian Thorne blinked momentarily, taken aback. Do you wish to come inside? We do not possess guest chairs, but we do have floor." Inside the apartment was modestly sized, cluttered with an assortment of vibrant toys and neatly folded laundry. A precariously stacked collection of engineering textbooks leaned sideways upon the counter. A battered yet beloved laptop blinked softly on the coffee table. "Mama is currently out searching for new employment opportunities," Maya explained, her small voice tinged with a quiet pragmatism. "She doesn't believe she will find one, but I informed her that the sun does not solicit permission to rise." "Did you acquire that particular wisdom from a cartoon?" Julian Thorne inquired softly, a hint of amusement in his tone. "No, Mr. Thorne. From Mama." Maya retrieved a box brimming with colorful building blocks and gestured towards the floor. "You may build with me if you wish. I only permit individuals whom I unequivocally trust to assist with the structural integrity of the roof." Julian Thorne hesitated for a fleeting moment, then with a profound sigh slowly sat down. The blocks were mismatched, their colors an eclectic symphony. Yet Maya's small hands moved with an unerring certainty, and slowly, meticulously, a diminutive house began to materialize. "She departed because she genuinely believed she had caused you embarrassment, Mr. Thorne." Maya suddenly volunteered, her voice quiet. "People were laughing about her online. I believe it wounded her deeply. It was not her fault," Maya Julian Thorne replied, his voice firm. "And it did not in any way cause me embarrassment. On the contrary, it served as a powerful reminder of what truly unequivocally matters. Do you miss her, Mr. Thorne? Julian Thorne exhaled slowly, a profound sigh. Yes, Maya. And I did not in truth anticipate that I would. Maya nodded sagely and extended a verdant block to him. If you succeed in making Mama smile again, Mr. Thorne, I shall graciously forgive you. Julian Thorne bit back a nascent laugh and almost imperceptibly wiped at the corner of his eye. Deal, Maya. Later, standing by the door, he hesitated for a moment. May I, Maya, leave a message for your mother? The sticky notes are over there. Mr. Thorne, Maya directed, pointing a small finger. The blue ones are for mundane, everyday matters. The pink ones, Mr. Thorne, are for truly significant feelings. Julian Thorne carefully selected a pink note. He inscribed only 5 words. We never got to finish, then underlined it with a decisive flourish and added his initials, JT. That night, Simone returned home to find Maya peacefully asleep on the couch, the partially constructed building block house balanced precariously on her stomach like a precious crown jewel. She smiled tiredly, then her gaze fell upon the small pink note. She read it, stared at it for a protracted period, then looked down at her sleeping daughter. Maya was still smiling in her sleep, and for the first time in days, Simone did too. The nascent sun had not yet fully penetrated the pervasive haze when Julian Thorne stepped off the meticulously maintained express tram and into a world redolent with the earthy aroma of old brick, the comforting scent of roasted peanuts, and the humid tang of wet laundry. He walked with a brisk, purposeful stride, his designer shoes muffled on the cracked sidewalk, making a conscious effort to ignore how conspicuously out of place he appeared in his impeccably tailored coat and pristine, sharp lines. But this was emphatically not the kind of neighborhood where outward appearances served as currency. Here people engaged in the quiet, unyielding trade of survival. Apartment 3B was situated at the very end of a hallway that amplified every echoing footstep. He knocked once, twice, then paused, followed by the faint, distinctive click of small feet rapidly approaching. The door creaked open, and there she was, Maya Dubois, clad in a glittery unicorn t-shirt and charmingly mismatched socks, her dark curls held back by a whimsical paperclip. Mr. Thorne. The little girl beamed as if they were long-lost Confederates. You came back. Julian Thorne managed a faint, almost imperceptible smile. I said I would, Maya. Mama's not home, Mr. Thorne. She's at the establishment with the exceedingly slow computers and the perpetually grumpy man. Do you wish to come in anyway, Mr. Thorne? Julian Thorne hesitated for a beat, but then Maya tugged gently at his coat sleeve, and the decision was quite simply made for him. We are preparing pancakes from scratch today, Mr. Thorne, Maya declared, marching purposefully into the kitchenette. Well, we were, Mr. Thorne, but then I quite unexpectedly ran out of scratch. Julian Thorne raised a questioning brow. Scratch, Maya. You know, Mr. Thorne, the essential ingredient one requires when the box explicitly states from scratch. I believe it's either like sugar, Master Thorne, or possibly magic. I am still, Mr. Thorne, meticulously investigating the matter. Julian Thorne laughed, a genuine, uninhibited laugh utterly unlike the polite half-smile he reserved for investors who posed inane inquiries. May I be seated, Maya? You may sit anywhere, Mr. Thorne, that is not conspicuously sticky, Maya replied, sweeping her arm dramatically across the cluttered, yet endearing room. I suggest the beanbag, Mr. Thorne. It is only mildly suspicious. Julian Thorne carefully lowered himself onto the beanbag, finding it surprisingly comfortable for an object that appeared to have survived a particularly spirited pillow skirmish. His eyes meticulously scanned the room shelves packed with a vibrant assortment of children's books, a whimsical robot meticulously crafted from discarded soda cans, a cardboard box meticulously labeled Important Inventions in crayon. But it was the wall adjacent to the window that abruptly arrested his breath. A vibrant collage of photographs Maya and Simone at the park, holding aloft gleaming science fair trophies at what appeared to be a hospital, and in the very center, a woman, kind, expressive eyes, a soft, compassionate smile, the very same captivating curls as Maya. That is, Mommy, Mr. Thorne, Maya stated quietly, as if intuitively sensing Julian's prolonged gaze. She departed this world when I was precisely 3 years old, Mr. Thorne. But Mama still converses with her sometimes when she believes I am peacefully slumbering. Julian Thorne's voice caught in his throat. She appears to possess a gentle spirit, Maya. She was Mr. Thorne. Mama said she cherished three things above all others: violent rainstorms, archaic poetry, and the peculiar way he prepared scrambled eggs. That is Maya, a rather poignant list. He ceased preparing eggs, Mr. Thorne, when she passed away, Maya stated matter-of-factly. But he commenced creating robots and intricate games and profoundly imaginative bedtime stories with hidden maps embedded within them. Julian Thorne blinked back the nascent lump rising in his throat. He articulated, Mr. Thorne, when someone's heart shatters, you either permit it to remain irrevocably broken or you endeavor to construct something exquisitely beautiful from its disparate fragments. He truly uttered those words, Maya, indeed, Mr. Thorne, right after we quite accidentally ignited the toaster. It was a profoundly emotional morning, Mr. Thorne. Julian Thorne smiled, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. Maya, he inquired gently, do you comprehend precisely why your mother chose to depart from the company? Maya looked up at him with a gravity far exceeding what any 6-year-old should conceivably bear. She genuinely believed she caused people discomfort, Mr. Thorne, that individuals did not desire a biosafety compliance technician who possessed such a formidable intellect, that they would never discern the fundamental distinction between being merely out of place and being profoundly brilliant, Mr. Thorne. The words struck him with the sharp, crystalline precision of shattered glass, clear, incisive, and utterly impossible to disregard. She invariably states, Mr. Thorne, sometimes people experience profound apprehension when the conventionally wrong person turns out to be unequivocally right. Julian Thorne leaned forward, his gaze intense. You articulate your thoughts, Maya, as an individual twice your actual age. That is Mr. Thorne, because I occasionally borrow Mama's heart. She possesses an exceptionally capacious one, Mr. Thorne, but it does at times grow weary. The room descended into a quietude. Julian Thorne reached into the inner pocket of his coat and produced a small, meticulously wrapped box. May I, Maya, present you with something? Maya nodded eagerly. Inside was a tiny USB drive adorned with a whimsical purple ribbon tied around it. It is a game, Maya, Julian Thorne explained. Your mother personally assisted in the meticulous design of its core mechanic. It is not yet publicly accessible. I surmised, Maya, that you might wish to be the very first to test it. Maya's eyes lit up with an incandescent joy. Does it feature dragons, Mr. Thorne? In a manner of speaking, Maya, it features dragons that are entirely unaware of their draconic nature. They perceive themselves as mere pigeons, Maya, until they endeavor to soar too far, and in so doing, astonishingly discover their innate capacity to breathe fire. Maya's mouth formed a perfect, astonished O. That is absolutely spectacular, Mr. Thorne. She clutched the small box to her chest as if it were an invaluable treasure map. Mr. Thorne. Yes, Maya, if you succeed in making Mama smile again, Mr. Thorne, I shall graciously forgive you. The words landed with a gentle yet resolute finality, much like a verdict meticulously rendered by a solitary jury. Julian Thorne did not speak. He found himself utterly incapable. Instead, he nodded a solemn, quiet, unyielding promise. As he retraced his steps back down the long hallway, the very air felt subtly altered, less like an insurmountable distance, more akin to a newly forged path. Julian Thorne looked up at the persistently overcast sky, feeling the profound weight of the preceding week press against his shoulders, and for the very first time, he found he did not mind. Back at the imposing corporate offices, he stepped into his private conference room and, with a decisive motion, pulled the blinds shut. His attentive assistant inquired if he wished to reschedule the afternoon's calls. He unequivocally declined. He explained something of significantly greater import to undertake. He turned to his sleek tablet and began the meticulous process of drafting a memorandum, but not merely any memorandum, a personal, heartfelt invitation, a profound correction, a new, resplendent beginning. And at the very pinnacle of the screen, he inscribed only a single resonant line before pausing, allowing the words to settle. Some bridges are unequivocally worth rebuilding by hand. Simone Dubois had not anticipated seeing him again, not standing unexpectedly in the bustling hallway of her daughter's school, not with his arms casually crossed and a folder clutched firmly in his hand, not with that same unflinching, resolute calm in his eyes, the kind that orchestrated momentous deals, shattered IPO records, and penetrated profound silences in equal measure. But there he was, patiently awaiting her presence. You traversed this considerable distance, Mr. Thorne, she remarked, adjusting the worn strap of her satchel. I found it imperative to see you in person, Miss Dubois. Most chief executive officers dispatch a mere email, and most biosafety compliance technicians do not meticulously resolve complex AI logic trees with a whiteboard marker, Mr. Thorne. Simone looked away, a faint, almost imperceptible half-smile tugging at the edge of her mouth. "So what now, Mr. Thorne?" she inquired. "Do you expect me to meticulously clean up the next impending crisis as well?" "No, Miss Dubois," he stated, his voice firm and unwavering. "I desire your presence to present at our forthcoming investor summit." Silence. A complete, total, truly weighted laughter out loud kind of silence. Simone blinked. "You desire my presence, Mr. Thorne, to do what precisely? To take the stage, Miss Dubois, to meticulously elucidate the algorithm revisions you so brilliantly inspired, to guide them through the newly simplified AI learning loop, to unequivocally be the public face they associate with our groundbreaking technological breakthrough. Meister Thorne, I do not engage with suits or formal speeches or rooms containing more than 6 individuals within a reasonable proximity to a fire exit. You do not, Miss Dubois, require a suit or a pre-written script. You require profound truth. And you possess that, Miss Dubois, in spades." He stepped closer, his demeanor resolute. "When you speak, Miss Dubois, people listen intently. Not because you demand it, but because you have quite simply lived what the rest of us can only abstractly model in code." Simone slowly shook her head, genuinely uncertain whether to surrender to laughter or to succumb to the impulse to flee. "Why me, Mr. Thorne? Because, Miss Dubois, I inadvertently overlooked what this entire company was originally founded upon," he confessed softly. "Not superficial polish, not optimistic projections, but genuine, remarkable people. And if, Mr. Thorne, it all irrevocably goes awry, then it shall go awry with your esteemed name conspicuously attached, not mine." That particular declaration brought her to an abrupt halt. "You are, Mr. Thorne, genuinely placing your own professional reputation on the line for me." "No, Miss Dubois," he stated, his voice unwavering. "I am standing resolutely beside you, Miss Dubois, while you place yours on the line for something you have already profoundly helped to construct." She stared at him for a prolonged moment, then with a quiet resignation nodded. "One condition, Mr. Thorne. Name it Miss Dubois. No teleprompters, no professional handlers, no disembodied voice in my ear dictating how I ought to sound more intellectually impressive. Deal, Miss Dubois. And one more thing, Mr. Thorne," she added, her gaze steady. "Yes, Miss Dubois. Do not, Mr. Thorne, disappear again. Not for me. And most emphatically, not for Maya." The very air between them subtly shifted. He did not smile, but something profoundly warmer, quieter, flickered within his eyes. "I was not, Miss Dubois, planning to." 2 days later, the Thorne Innovations Annual Investor Summit commenced its proceedings in the Grand Pacific Grand Auditorium. Simone stood backstage, her hands clammy with nascent apprehension, clad in a clean, yet noticeably wrinkled button-up blouse that Maya had vehemently insisted she not tuck in. "You appear to be a genuine magician," Mama Maya had informed her. A rather anxious one, I must confess. The vast room beyond the opulent curtain was densely packed. Hundreds of expectant eyes hushed high-stakes whispers, the incessant clicking of cameras. Simone cautiously peeked out and immediately spotted him, Julian Thorne, at the very rear of the room, standing not seated. His hands were clasped tightly in front of him, as if he were literally holding his breath. She inhaled deeply. "It is merely a room," she whispered to herself, attempting to calm her racing heart. "A remarkably expensive room, laden with far too many preconceived notions." She stepped out, and the entire vast space became utterly still. No elaborate PowerPoint presentation, no intricate charts. Simply Simone, a handheld microphone, and a single profound image projected behind her, a pristine blank page. She meticulously adjusted the microphone, scanned the expectant faces in the audience, then stated quietly, her voice resonating with an unvarnished truth. "I was, in point of fact, scheduled to meticulously clean this very room this evening. The audience stilled, captivated. I very nearly failed to appear tonight. Not because I harbored any fear of public speaking, but because I harbored a profound fear of being truly seen." She allowed the pause to hang suspended in the air. People leaned forward, their attention rapt. "6 weeks ago, I was meticulously sweeping and sanitizing surfaces at Thorne Innovations. Tonight, I stand before you because someone quite inadvertently neglected to erase the whiteboard, and I perceived something that no one else, it seemed, did." She pointed towards the stark blank screen behind her. "That is, ladies and gentlemen, how most people perceive individuals like myself, like this blank, utterly replaceable." She clicked the microphone once. A crude yet profoundly evocative sketch materialized a neural network meticulously drawn by hand, the very same one she had scribbled onto the whiteboard that fateful night. But what if, ladies and gentlemen, the solution is not meticulously hidden within the vast datasets or the myriad academic degrees or the opulent corner offices? What if, indeed, it is profoundly hidden within the very people we have regrettably ceased to truly listen to? She began walking with the grounded demeanor of an earnest teacher navigating a classroom, not a presenter striving to make a sale. I am not, ladies and gentlemen, a genius. I regrettably withdrew from Caltech to dedicate myself to raising a daughter who now firmly believes that dragons are merely shy pigeons. Polite laughter rippled through the audience. But I have spent the preceding years meticulously observing the intricate mechanisms of the world when no one precisely is observing it back. And here, ladies and gentlemen, is what I have unequivocally learned. Another click of the microphone. The screen transformed, a stick figure clutching a cleaning implement standing resolutely beside a massive, intricate machine conspicuously labeled AI Loop. Machines learn, ladies and gentlemen, much like children do through trial and error, with profound patience, with consistent repetition, and most crucially, with unwavering trust. She turned, speaking not to impress, but to forge a profound connection. If, ladies and gentlemen, a biosafety compliance technician possesses the capacity to rectify a complex learning loop, perhaps the loop in its essence was never truly broken. Perhaps, ladies and gentlemen, we simply constructed it to habitually disregard the fundamentally wrong kind of voice. For a prolonged beat, no one in the vast auditorium moved. Then an individual in the front row, a woman clad in a striking red blazer, began to clap softly, slowly. A second joined, then a third, until the entire ballroom rose to its feet, erupting in a thunderous, resounding applause. Not for superficial polish, not for corporate power, but for something infinitely rarer. Truth. Backstage, Julian Thorne exhaled for the very first time in 20 minutes. Maya tugged gently on his sleeve. He did not employ any convoluted fancy words, Mr. Thorne. That Maya Julian Thorne whispered, a profound realization dawning upon him, is precisely why it worked. Does this imply, Mr. Thorne, that he gets promoted to Superdad? He smiled, a genuine heartfelt smile. He already was Maya. After the tumultuous applause finally subsided, Simone quietly slipped backstage, her heart now pounding in a distinctly different rhythm, a rhythm of profound relief, of release. And then came the unmistakable voice of someone entirely unexpected. Miss Dubois, stated Eleanor Vance, chairperson of the Thorne Innovations Board, approaching with a rare, almost shy smile. That was unequivocally one hell of a presentation. Simone cautiously extended her hand. Thank you, ma'am. You are no longer a biosafety compliance technician, Miss Dubois. Effective immediately, we would be honored to bring you in as our lead innovation advisor. Simone blinked, utterly stunned. I simply do not know what to articulate. Do not articulate anything. Miss Dubois. Eleanor grinned, her eyes sparkling. Simply continue doing precisely what you are doing. She vanished into the throng, discovering Julian Thorne standing quietly in the corner of the hallway, patiently waiting. She approached him slowly. So, Mr. Thorne, I surmise that went rather more favorably than either of us anticipated. You compelled a ballroom filled with millionaires to profoundly question their very egos, Miss Dubois. He stated softly, a hint of admiration in his voice. Not a negligible outcome for a single night's endeavor. I did not achieve it in solitary fashion, Mr. Thorne. She looked past him. Maya had quite adorably fallen asleep on a plush velvet bench, her tiny fists curled possessively around the game cartridge he had promised she could play after Mama's scary speech. I articulated a multitude of words out there, Mr. Thorne. She continued, her voice soft, but the only ones that truly mattered were the ones I did not have the opportunity to utter. Like, thank you for showing up, Mr. Thorne, for truly seeing me, for not fleeing when the situation grew uncomfortably challenging. Julian Thorne's voice trembled just slightly, a profound vulnerability peeking through. I do not flee anymore, Miss Dubois. I simply circle the block a few times before I courageously knock. Simone smiled, stepping closer. You know, Mr. Thorne, I genuinely believed I was undertaking this for Maya to provide her with something demonstrably superior. And now I believe she quite unexpectedly provided me with something superior, a compelling reason to cease concealing myself behind the veneer of good enough, a compelling reason to endeavor once more. Julian Thorne nodded, then after a contemplative breath, inquired, "What precisely transpires next, Miss Dubois?" "Next, Mr. Thorne," Simone replied, glancing back at Maya. "We return home. We peruse a bedtime story. We endeavor not to incinerate the morning's scrambled eggs." She looked at him, her gaze direct. "And perhaps, Mr. Thorne, if you are not unduly preoccupied with the colossal task of salvaging the company, you might for once join us for pancakes." Julian Thorne raised an eyebrow, a hint of playful amusement in his eyes. "You are Miss Dubois, a notoriously dreadful cook, but I undeniably serve with considerable panache. Then, Miss Dubois," she stated softly, her voice filled with a nascent warmth, "it is a date, a breakfast date. Do not, Mr. Thorne, permit yourself to become carried away. One step at a time, Dubois." That night, as the sprawling city illuminated itself in glorious gold and deep violet hues outside her apartment window, Simone sat perched on the edge of her worn couch, Maya nestled contentedly against her side. She looked at her daughter, then shifted her gaze to the email pinging on her screen. Subject: "Welcome to the leadership team." But it was not the prestigious job title that resonated most deeply within her. It was the quiet, steady heartbeat of something entirely different. She was no longer merely the woman behind the cleaning solutions. She was the woman who had learned how to be profoundly seen without compromising an iota of who she truly was, and somewhere precisely between the cleaning implement and the microphone, she had unequivocally discovered her authentic voice. The boardroom was empty now. Gone were the impeccably tailored suits, the dazzling spotlights, the polite yet ultimately shallow applause that had hours earlier reverberated through the very rafters of the magnificent space. Only the lingering ghost of tension remained subtly woven into the fibers of the plush carpet, the kind of tension that refuses to dissolve until someone finally articulates what should have been spoken eons ago. Simone stood by the grand window holding a lukewarm cup of coffee. Below, the sprawling city buzzed with its ceaseless energy, as if absolutely nothing had changed, yet in truth everything had. Behind her, the door opened softly, almost imperceptibly. Julian Thorne entered wearing the very same sleek black blazer from the presentation, though it hung upon him a little more loosely now, as if the oppressive weight of corporate pressure had at last drained from his broad shoulders. Finally, "I did not anticipate your continued presence here, Mr. Thorne," she stated gently, her voice soft. "I did not anticipate feeling as though I truly belonged here, Miss Dubois," he replied without turning around. Silence descended upon them once more, not awkward, but rather thick, with the immense weight of unspoken things. He walked towards the opposite end of the room and slowly sat down at the head of the long, gleaming glass table. The chair squeaked softly beneath his shifting weight. "You were Miss Dubois, undeniably brilliant today," he articulated, his voice a low murmur. "I did not commit a single word of it to memory, Mr. Thorne. That Miss Dubois is precisely what rendered it brilliant." He smiled, finally turning to face her. "Then, Mr. Thorne, why do I still harbor the persistent sensation that I might awaken tomorrow morning in my old uniform? Because, Miss Dubois, individuals such as ourselves do not originate from the kind of world where dreams are afforded the luxury of feeling secure," he stated, his voice quiet, almost mournful. "We meticulously build, we fiercely protect, but we very rarely simply receive." He observed her carefully, his gaze unwavering. "Now, Mr. Thorne, does that include yourself, especially myself, Miss Dubois?" He slowly rose to his feet and walked towards her, stopping a mere few feet away. "You once inquired, Miss Dubois, why I chose to return to see you, why I did not simply permit the story to gracefully fade into oblivion. Yes, Mr. Thorne, I did. It was not, Miss Dubois, due to public relations concerns or mere optics or even the intricacies of the algorithm itself." He looked down at his hands, which quite uncharacteristically were fidgeting, a rare display of vulnerability in a man who had once, without hesitation, informed a Fortune 500 investor directly to his face. "Either you commit entirely, or you unequivocally remove yourself from my path. I return, Miss Dubois, because you made me experience something I had not felt in years." He offered no verbal response, simply waited patiently, gently. "It was not merely the way you perceived subtle truths within complex code, Miss Dubois. It was the profound way you perceived the entire world, as if broken pieces were not objects to be discarded, but rather raw materials from which to meticulously construct something new, something extraordinary. That is, Mr. Thorne, because I myself am composed of broken pieces, Precisely, Miss Dubois, he whispered, his voice soft with understanding. He stepped closer. Do you comprehend, Miss Dubois, what it is like to spend one's entire existence being consistently the most intellectually acute individual in any given room, and yet still harbor the profound sensation of being utterly, profoundly alone within it? She nodded slowly, a shared understanding passing between them. Do you comprehend, Mr. Dubois, what it is like to deliberately withhold truly good news simply because there is no one with whom to genuinely share it? Every time I brought Maya home a drawing from work that I was genuinely proud of, Mr. Thorne, she recounted, her voice laced with a bittersweet memory, and she would clap her small hands as if I had miraculously cured cancer. He laughed, a soft, full, resonant sound this time. Then quietly, you, Miss Dubois, genuinely frighten me. That particular statement caught her entirely off guard. Why, Mr. Thorne? Because, Miss Dubois, you are not striving to impress me or to mend me or to pursue some elusive ambition. You are simply here. Precisely, Mr. Thorne. And I quite frankly do not possess the knowledge of how to remain still. For a moment neither of them moved, only the soft rhythmic blinking of the city's distant nightlights. Then Simone spoke. Do you comprehend, Mr. Thorne, what I realize tonight? Enlighten me, Miss Dubois. That love, Mr. Thorne, does not invariably manifest itself in grand declarations and flamboyant gestures. Sometimes, Mr. Thorne, it simply presents itself as a man walking into a biosafety compliance technician's hallway and unequivocally demanding answers. He laughed again, a hand covering his mouth, a gesture of profound amusement. I am not, Miss Dubois, particularly adept with subtlety. Good, Mr. Thorne, because I am absolutely dreadful at guessing games. He took a slow, deliberate step closer. I believe, Miss Dubois, I have been, shall we say, falling for you ever since you consciously chose not to erase the marker I inadvertently left on the display. And I believe, Mr. Thorne, I have been, shall we say, falling for you ever since you consciously chose not to apologize for writing upon it. Their eyes locked not with hunger, not with desperation, but with a profound, unwavering certainty. They moved closer gently until their foreheads softly touched, breathing the same unhurried air. Then he whispered, May I inquire about something, Miss Dubois? Anything, Mr. Thorne. Do you believe it is genuinely possible to construct something substantial, something truly real, from something that began quite accidentally by happenstance? She pulled back slightly, meeting his eyes. Some of the most profound stories, Mr. Thorne, commence when someone inadvertently walks into the wrong room. You perceive this, Miss Dubois, as a mere story. No, Mr. Thorne, he stated softly, I perceive this, Miss Dubois, as a pivotal chapter we very nearly failed to have the courage to write. She closed her eyes, allowing his words to settle deeply within her, then slowly opened them again. Promise me something, Mr. Thorne. You name it, Miss Dubois, that if I should, God forbid, unravel again, you will remind me of who I truly am. Only, Miss Dubois, if you promise to reciprocate the gesture when I inevitably forget who I have paradoxically become. She nodded a silent, profound agreement. Deal, Mr. Thorne. They did not kiss, not yet. Instead, they sat down upon the polished floor of that vast, cold boardroom, their backs comfortably propped against the glass, their knees drawn up like innocent children observing distant fireworks. Outside, the city twinkled in slow, hypnotic pulses. This room, Mr. Thorne, is far too ostentatious, Simone muttered softly. We possess the capacity to transform that Miss Dubois. How, Mr. Thorne, bring in more broken pieces, Miss Dubois, more unvarnished truth, more authentic coffee stains. Only, Mr. Thorne, if you personally brew it. He looked at her, a gentle smile gracing his lips. You are not Miss Dubois, what I anticipated. Neither are you, Mr. Thorne. That Miss Dubois is likely precisely why this undeniably works. Probably Mr. Thorne. They settled into silence, once more comfortable this time, a silence imbued with shared understanding. Then Simone whispered almost to herself, I do not desire for this to be a mere footnote, Mr. Thorne. It will not be Miss Dubois. And I do not desire for Maya to perceive that individuals like myself do not possess the right to write their own endings. Then Miss Dubois let us provide her with a new one. Later that night, Simone returned home and discovered Maya still awake, cozily nestled under her blanket fort with a flickering flashlight and a half-eaten banana. Maya blinked at her mother. Did you articulate it to him? Mama, articulate what, my love? That you like. Like him, Mama. Like him. Simone chuckled softly. Yes, Maya, I believe he rather surmised it. Did he like you back, Mama? It is my love looking exceedingly promising." Maya grinned a wide, triumphant grin and turned off her flashlight. "Good, Mama. I was genuinely concerned you would somehow mess it up." "Thank you for the resounding vote of confidence, my dear child. You are most welcome, Mama. Also, kindly endeavor not to incinerate the pancakes tomorrow. He might, come over." Simone chuckled, kissed her daughter's forehead, and gently pulled the blanket around her. As she extinguished the lights, a quiet thought softly permeated her mind. Perhaps some stories in their profound essence do not necessitate perfect, convoluted plot twists. Perhaps all they truly require is the innate courage to embark upon a new beginning. Sunday mornings in Simone's apartment were sacred. The compact kitchen was redolent with the comforting aroma of cinnamon toast and strong, robust coffee, the kind meticulously brewed too potently and poured with an almost reckless haste. The window was cracked open just sufficiently to permit the ingress of a gentle breeze that carried the soft hum of weekend life bicycles whizzing by, the clear, joyous laughter of children echoing down the hall. The city at long last seemingly exhaling with palpable ease. Julian Thorne stood barefoot in the living room, his hair loosely uncombed, wearing one of Simone's softest flannel shirts, as if it had invariably belonged to him. He was not engaged in work. He was not meticulously scrutinizing his phone. He was quite simply present. "She has been ensconced in there for 35 minutes now," he whispered, taking a slow sip of his coffee. "That, Mr. Thorne, is pure concentration," Simone replied, expertly cracking eggs one-handed into the sizzling pan. It typically signifies either that something profoundly magical is occurring, or she is once again attempting to feed goldfish to the toaster. Should we harbor a modicum of apprehension, Mr. Thorne, a little Miss Dubois. A quiet electronic ding emanated from the corner of the room. Maya's voice called out from behind the closed bedroom door. "Mama, Mr. Thorne, you unequivocally need to witness this." They exchanged glances, their eyebrows raised in unison. Simone wiped her hands on a towel and with a knowing smile led the way. Julian Thorne followed, coffee cup still in hand. Inside, Maya was perched precariously at the edge of Simone's old desktop computer, her eyes wide and glowing with a mischievous delight. On the screen was the game Simone had meticulously coded for her years ago, Maya's Labyrinth, a relatively simple maze game complete with intricate puzzles, useful power-ups, and an endearing AI pet dragon named Sparks. But today, a profound transformation had occurred. A glowing, pulsating update available button blinked invitingly on the screen. "What precisely is this, Maya?" Julian Thorne inquired, his voice soft with curiosity. "It is not for me, Mr. Thorne," Maya whispered conspiratorially. Simone chuckled gently. "Actually, Mr. Thorne, it is." She knelt beside her daughter and clicked the update button. The screen faded to black. A progress bar meticulously filling appeared. Then, pixel by painstaking pixel, an animation began to play. It was not part of the original game. It commenced with a cartoon biosafety compliance technician diligently sweeping a hallway under flickering office lights. A tiny paper airplane, whimsically crafted, flew in and gently struck her in the back. She turned around to discover a man in an impeccable business suit holding out a crumpled sketch of intricate code. Julian Thorne gasped a soft, almost inaudible sound. "Is that—" "Keep watching, Mr. Thorne," Simone said quietly, a profound tenderness in her voice. The cartoon technician carefully took the paper, examined it closely, and then smiled a genuine, heartfelt smile. The music subtly shifted, warm, hopeful, deeply resonant. The animation gradually zoomed out. Suddenly, a small girl burst onto the scene, astride a vibrant dragon who scooped up both cartoon characters and soared majestically over the sprawling city skyline, trailing intricate binary code across the starlit sky like a breathtaking display of fireworks. Then, as they gently descended onto a rooftop under a canopy of shimmering stars, the screen faded to black. A single line of text appeared. "Dear Julian, if you are reading this, press enter." Julian Thorne's hand hovered trembling almost imperceptibly over the keyboard. His voice was barely a whisper. This is genuinely transpiring. You will most definitely want to press enter, Mr. Thorne," Simone urged, a bit sheepish, a soft blush coloring her cheeks. He did. The screen bloomed with a slow, cascading display of cherished photos, whimsical drawings, and profound memories. A grainy security camera image of Simone meticulously scribbling on the whiteboard that fateful night. Maya holding aloft a world's best mama mug, her face alight with an infectious grin. Julian Thorne peacefully asleep on Simone's shoulder during a late-night brainstorming session, all three of them laughing heartily over a pile of pancakes, their hair delightfully messy syrup adorning their noses. And finally, text once more. You restored my voice to me. You perceived the profound value within me before I even comprehended how to demonstrate it. You did not mend me. You walked steadfastly beside me whilst I diligently cultivated my own growth. So now, Julian, I am asking, will you be an indispensable part of our family forever? At that precise moment, Simone stepped quietly behind him, her presence calm, unwavering, holding aloft a small, open box revealing a simple gold ring. No diamonds, no superfluous flourishes. It is not perfect, Mr. Thorne, she stated, her voice soft with sincerity. But neither are we, Mr. Thorne, and that precisely is what renders this profoundly real. Julian Thorne's eyes welled with unshed tears. He turned slowly, gazing down at the unadorned ring, then lifted his gaze to the woman who had once quietly swept hallways in anonymity and now stood radiantly in her own profound light. You did not merely compose a proposal, Simone, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. No, you meticulously wrote our entire story, and I ardently desire to continue writing it, Simone, with both of you. From the corner of the room, Maya, her arms resolutely crossed, one eyebrow raised in a gesture of profound judgment, declared with unmistakable finality, "Say yes, please. He absolutely cannot prepare pancakes alone." They all laughed, tears and unbridled joy, inextricably entangled in one beautiful, wonderfully clumsy breath. Julian Thorne took the ring, sliding it onto her finger. A perfect, undeniable fit. Yes, Simone Dubois, he articulated, his voice thick with emotion. Yes, 1,000 times over. That evening, the three of them sat out upon the fire escape, observing the sun melt into a spectacular symphony of colors behind the towering buildings. Simone held Julian's hand in one of hers, Maya curled contentedly against her other side. The city buzzed beneath them, a cacophony of life, yet they remained profoundly still. Julian Thorne leaned his head gently on her shoulder. "What, my love, do we tell people?" he inquired softly. "The truth," Julian, Simone replied. "That a biosafety compliance technician irrevocably fell in love with a formidable CEO. That a woman who very nearly surrendered found a man brave enough to steadfastly remain. And that a little girl with a cherished toy dragon made it all miraculously come to fruition." Maya chimed in without opening her eyes. "Precisely that, Mama." Julian Thorne smiled, his heart overflowing. "That, Simone," he whispered, "is not merely a story. That, my dear, is a miracle." He gently kissed the top of her head. Funny, is it not, how the smallest things possess the profound capacity to alter absolutely everything? As the stars began to blink on one by one, Julian Thorne looked out at the distant horizon. Once so achingly far away, it was now merely the threshold of a wondrous new beginning. He had spent countless years meticulously cleaning up the messes meticulously made by others. But this was the very first thing he had truly built for himself. Not a whimsical fairy tale, not a dramatic rescue, merely three imperfect hearts choosing each other unequivocally. And in that quiet, delightfully messy, undeniably beautiful truth, he finally discovered home. And that, dear viewer, was the profound story of how a biosafety compliance technician's quiet genius, a little girl's unwavering hope, and a CEO's second transformative chance converged to profoundly redefine the very essence of what family truly signifies. But now, I would be absolutely delighted to hear your story. Where are you observing this narrative from today? Kindly drop a comment below and enlighten me. I meticulously read every single one, and your words, believe me, hold a significance far exceeding your comprehension. If this particular narrative touched your heart even in the slightest measure, please consider subscribing to the channel so you never ever miss another poignant tale of love, profound redemption, and the quiet, pervasive power of kindness. There is always unequivocally another chapter patiently awaiting its turn. Thank you with profound sincerity for generously dedicating your invaluable time to me. Until our next encounter, remain kind, maintain your hope, and never ever underestimate the quiet, gentle power of a true connection.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.